What's up, everyone? It's Cannan, and welcome to an all-new episode of RWBY Alternate Realities. I know it's been a long time, but I decided to do this because it's an idea that I've wanted to do for a long time. And yes, I am on my own. Jess is tired. We've been working almost nonstop, but she may show up in other parts to give her ideas and all that because I want to warn you, I have no script. I have no list. I am going completely off the cuff here because I think I do a little bit better than just reading off a list. But yes, this is going to be a true alternate reality. In the past, we've done stories that slightly change the story of the original show of RWBY, but this one is going to be almost a whole new story on its own. Yes, it'll still follow probably the basic bone of the show RWBY, but there's definitely going to be some changes. Appearances will be changed. Some story beats will definitely be changed. Some relationships will be changed. Major ones like Raven and Crow, they will not be blood siblings in this. Raven will be an adopted sibling because she's not originally from Remnant. And just please remember, this is just for fun. It's not a rewrite. It's not to be anything better than RWBY. It is just something that I've always wanted to do, and that is combine my two favorite shows in the world, RWBY and Dragon Ball. And of course, the channel is called the Geeky Saiyan Couple. We should be known for RWBY, and we should be known for Dragon Ball, even though we don't do a ton of Dragon Ball content. Now, not a few months ago, like a while ago, I did a video called RWBY in Depth, and it was a look at Yang and her semblance and how, in a lot of ways, she is Remnant's version of a Saiyan, whether it be how her semblance works. I mean, even going back to the song I Burn with the lyric, I'm Super Saiyan now. And that is mostly because Dragon Ball has become such a cultural phenomenon. You can literally relate it to a lot of things. I mean, Goku and Vegeta just got put into Fortnite, and people are having a ball with the emotes that they do. And I have to admit, seeing Vegeta dance was funnier than the dance he did in Battle of Gods. Let's just say that. But I've been working for 6 days now. Tomorrow's my 7th day in a row, and then both me and Jess have a little vacation. We'll be off for 6 days, so I didn't get to plan for this as I wanted to. So if I do a new episode, it may be Friday, and hopefully, I'll be rested. I'll be a little bit more on the ball, because it is a little after midnight, and we gotta work tomorrow. So in this episode, we're going to talk about a little bit, like more of intro stuff, and we will get a little bit into Yang's early life and how it would go if she was a Saiyan. Now, first, let's talk about Saiyans a little bit. Now, as the years have went on, their origin and all that has kind of been, I don't know if retcon is the right word, but it's definitely been changed in a good lot of ways. The little bit of Saiyan lore we learned from Raditz at the beginning of Dragon Ball Z was that their home planet had been destroyed by a comet or a meteor, and that there were only 4 Saiyans left, that being himself, Goku, Vegeta, and Nappa, though of course there was also Gohan, who was a half Saiyan, half human hybrid, so that also counted him. But as the series went on, we learned more and more, and the first big lore drop we got was from King Kai while Goku was dead and training under him. And I can't remember if this was a filler episode, but I know it has a lot of information in it that was either never addressed ever again or was just completely ignored. But the basic lore that they gave at that time was that there was a planet, and it depends on which kind of version you watch. It's originally called Planet, and then it was called Planet Tuffle in most of the dubs. And pretty much there were 2 kinds of people living on that planet. There were the Tuffles, And of course, there were the Saiyans. Now, the Tuffles outnumbered the Saiyans and they had technology on their side, but the Saiyans were way more physically stronger than them. But even though they were physically stronger, the Saiyans waited until the night of a full moon to attack the Tuffles. They all transformed into great apes, and even though the Tuffles put up a struggle, the Saiyans eventually took them out and took over the planet. Now, after that, it gets a little weird. In the original version, there was these aliens that came called the Arcosians, and that's never been touched upon again. So it must have been a filler thing, because I think it's now being said that the Saiyans kind of got their technology either from the Tuffles or from Frieza when they started to work for Frieza, or King Cold, his father, because they worked for King Cold before they worked for Frieza, if you follow the now Dragon Ball Super lore from Dragon Ball Super Broly. But either way, they decided they got into more technology. They started wearing the armor, because before their armor, they were shown to be kind of a tribal like people, where they were wearing just fur that they had gotten from like animals they had hunted, and they were just wearing the furs, and they were living like in a I know there's a right word for them, but they were pretty much huts made out of dirt and mud. Um, and so eventually they got more technology. The Tuffles are shown to wear the Scouters, so I don't know if it's still said that that's where they got the Scouters or that Frieza gave them to them, but it's either that or Frieza and Frieza's father found them and pretty much turned the Saiyans into mercenaries in a way. Then, of course, you have the whole, planet brokers, the planet trade and all that, where Frieza would want a planet. He would send the Saiyans would wipe it out of all life, and then they would sell the planet to the highest bidder. So yes, the Saiyans are not exactly painted very well in early Dragon Ball Z, though it's been changed a lot. With Dragon Ball Super Broly, we kind of get to see the Saiyans, I guess, in a way, at their peak as far as civilization all that goes, mostly thanks to Frieza's family and the riches that came from that. Even though the Saiyans were in a way in servitude to Frieza's family, and we saw different things. Bardock, Goku's father, was a fighter. A low-ranked fighter, but still a fighter. But then his mother, Gine, worked in a butcher shop. No one thought that the Saiyans would run businesses, but that's how they were painted. We saw Saiyan scientists. Who would have thought from a warrior race that you would have Saiyans wearing lab coats and running experiments? Even though if you listen to the original Ocean dub, Vegeta claims that Bardock was a scientist when, in the actual, what Bardock eventually became was far from a scientist. But we were also shown a more humane side of the Saiyans in that, you still had Saiyans who were very rough and very indifferent to things, kind of in a way like King Vegeta was, or Vegeta himself, or Nappa, or Raditz. But then you had Saiyans like Gine who were good-natured, even though Gine was considered different for the Saiyans because she was good-natured. She wasn't violent. She didn't have the need to fight. Maybe that's where Gohan gets some of his good nature from, because we all know that if it hadn't been for his head injury, Goku would have been probably just as rough as the other Saiyans. It's even shown that he was until he hit his head. So it's a question of, is it just how the Saiyans are, or is it more of a a instinct thing? And the story has changed several times over the years. The movie Broly showed a lot of things, and that, and even Bardock himself was very different when we first met him in the Father of Goku special, where he was shown to be very indifferent to Goku being born, even kind of mocking Goku for having such a low power level. And not really even remembering when Goku was born, when he was born just a few days ago, but Bardock says his son was born a long time ago, to being more of a caring father in Dragon Ball Super Broly, which, yes, that was based off Dragon Ball Plus, I believe it was Plus, that Toriyama did himself, where he pretty much made Bardock his own. Um, so you have very different origins and different sides of the Saiyans. So it's really hard to really say what is the canon version of the Saiyans, because Dragon Ball has gone so long and there's so many rewrites, so many retcons, that it's really hard to say a 100% canon of Dragon Ball, because you got the manga, you got the anime, you've got everything else. So moving on to Yang, this is going to be kind of a abridged version of my RWBY in-depth video, but Yang shows several similarities. I've always wondered if maybe Monty, Miles, and Carrie were inspired a little bit from Dragon Ball for Yang, because I mean, RWBY has so many influences that I find it very hard to believe that Dragon Ball wasn't one of them with Yang, because her semblance is literally going Super Saiyan, because Super Saiyan is a transformation caused by anger. And of course, everyone says that Yang's semblance is her throwing a big temper tantrum. Her hair changes. Though her hair is naturally blonde, it becomes brighter when she does. Her eye color changes. She becomes stronger. And the more damage she takes, the stronger she becomes. And that's also something Saiyans do. The longer they fight and the more damage they take, they get what is called a Zenkai boost. It's pretty much the best way I can describe it is when you work out. When you work out, you're actually literally tearing muscle tissue. That's why it hurts the day after you work out, because you've actually torn muscle tissue. And so to heal itself, the muscle tissue grows back, puts another layer over it, and that's how you get more muscles. You're literally tearing muscle tissue, and it puts an overlay over it, and it becomes bigger and stronger. And that's kind of what I've always seen a Zenkai boost being, is that they're getting hurt, they're getting damaged, but when they heal up, it kind of just gives them another extra boost of power. Now, one thing we've never really seen in the show is if Yang really has a large appetite like Saiyans do, but with the way her semblance works, and since she's associated with fire and all that, you would think maybe she does have a fast metabolism that would cause her to eat more than the normal person to keep her energy up. Same way with Saiyans. They have a very, very fast metabolism, and so they require a lot of food intake to keep their strength up. We've definitely seen times where Goku completely loses his strength because he hasn't had anything to eat. Now, of course, that happens to us in real life as well. If you're going on a low tank, you eventually just drop. So it's kind of based in reality a little bit, with a few things like Zenkai boost and the need to eat. But Yang also does show a love of combat, which really, I think if you're wanting to be a huntress or a hunter, you kind of like the thrill of combat in some ways. Though, of course, many have different goals they want. Like RWBY, she just wants to make the world a better place, and so does Yang, but she said during Volume 2, she's a thrill seeker. She likes to travel around and all that. And she obviously does like a good fight. And then, of course, the song I Burn with the lyric, I'm Super Saiyan now. I just have a feeling that they used some sort of inspiration, which there's nothing wrong with. Dragon Ball has inspired a lot of things. And that's why I have such ever since I started watching RWBY, if you just tweaked a few things, changed a few things, Yang could be Remnant's version of a Saiyan, and that's where this idea came from. Now, of course, one major thing that I am changing about Yang's appearance is her hair color. Now, yes, Yang is supposed to stand for yellow in RWBY, because you know, color is a big thing in RWBY, but then again, like I said, this is an alternate reality. This is not necessarily taking into account a lot of the things that RWBY is built upon. So, in this version, she is going to have black hair like Raven, but she keeps her lilac eyes. She also, of course, has a tail, because even if you are a half breed like Gohan, Trunks, and Goten, you're still born with a tail, even though we're still not told what happened to Goten and Trunks' tails. More than likely, they were removed at birth. Um, so, yeah, so really, to start with this, which I'm not going to go much longer because I don't want this to be a super long video because it is late, but this will be a precursor into what is to come. But really, to start, we have to start with Raven. And in this version, Raven would be born a full-blooded Saiyan warrior. Now, if you want to call it Planet Vegeta or anything, you can, but I'm going to try and not make this really a RWBY / Dragon Ball crossover. I'm going to try not to have characters from Dragon Ball show up in this. The only one that would really make sense would be Frieza, just because Frieza has such a history with the Saiyans, but maybe not. Let's just call it the unnamed Overlord. And the same thing that happens to the Saiyans in Dragon Ball happens to the Saiyans in this version, where they exist in the same world as RWBY. And that is, an Overlord has pretty much put the Saiyans under their workforce, sending them out, wiping out people, and selling the planets. Now, of course, we all know Raven is no saint. She is not exactly a good person. She's a badass character, but she's at her heart, maybe she's not good. I wouldn't say she's bad, but she is very in the gray. A lot of gray. Now, in this version, of course, Raven has grown up as a Saiyan. She loves to fight. She doesn't care to spill a little bit of blood and all that. And so who's to say she didn't take part in some of these raids? But eventually, she starts seeing signs that it might not be safe to stick around anymore, because this Overlord is very easy to anger and very easy to put any of them down. They are plus way stronger than any Saiyan that's alive. And then, of course, you have the legend of the Super Saiyan that this Overlord hears about. And what do we all know about this Overlord is paranoia. Fear that a Saiyan will eventually rise up against them and take them out. So, of course, this is the early stages of the plan to eradicate the Saiyans. Now, of course, Raven is not going to hear definitely about this, but she just gets the feeling that, hey, it's every Saiyan for themselves. I'm grabbing a ship. I'm getting out of here. Now, how she gets that ship, probably not the best of intentions. Probably does kill a few people to get it, and she leaves. She leaves the planet behind. She looks for a planet with abundant life, but full of people with low power levels, so they won't really. So if she decides to take over the planet, so let's say, they will not pose any threat. Now, I don't know if it's ever been said if Remnant exists on a planet called Earth, so we'll just call the planet Remnant in this scenario, because like I said, we still don't know if it takes place on Earth. I don't think they've ever referred to it as Earth. It's just been Remnant. And that's what she finds. She finds the planet of Remnant, and she sees that there are a few individuals on it that probably could pose a pretty good fight, but she would still have the edge. And so, of course, she sets a course. She goes to sleep and has the ship wake her up when she gets close enough. Now, of course, she does think ahead and has the ship land in a pretty barren area, which is near the area of Patch, of course. Now, at this time, I'd say Raven is fairly young. I'd say early teens. Maybe in this version, she might be late teens, because who's to say if she would still go to Beacon? Because at this point, she'd be strong enough to the point where she would see Beacon as kind of a waste. Where in the RWBY version, her and Crow went there to learn how to kill people. Raven could easily do that in this version. All she has to do is raise her palm and throw a blast, and no one's there. So of course, Raven does not have a semblance because she is not born on Remnant. She has Ki, which is a natural energy with inside yourself that with training you could increase and become way stronger than anything that probably Remnant has to throw at her. Now she's probably attacked by some Grim because she's not feeling very positive emotions right now, and that is when she is found by the Bronwyn tribe, and this is where she meets her eventual adoptive brother, Crow. So, of course, she doesn't trust them at first, but the bandits, in a way, remind her of her early days with the Saiyans. They live that nomadic lifestyle, in a way. And so she kind of, okay, let's give these guys a chance. If I don't like them, I'll just wipe them out and go somewhere else. But of course, she bonds with Crow, and eventually she is welcomed into the Bronwyn tribe. She is adopted into the tribe. And here's the thing, though. Raven still has her tail. So, of course, she is just assumed to be a faunus. Now, Raven has no idea what a faunus is, but she eventually does learn it. And at first, she's like, I'm not going to hide. Just tell them what I am, blah, blah, blah. But she decides that's probably not the smartest thing to do right now. She's on a different planet. And even though she could easily take it over, she doesn't want to draw too much attention to herself, because if she uses too much energy, who's to say that Overlord wouldn't be able to find her? So, and for the sake of protecting herself, Raven plays along and says, yeah, I'm a faunus. So the years go by, and let's say they are about they're pretty much about to rip off some people when they run into some students from Beacon. And of course, two of those students are Summer Rose and Tai Xiaolong. Now, I'm not sure if Raven would fall for Tai at first sight, but he definitely interests her, because besides Crow, who she sees as her brother, he's the only other person she's seen so far that impresses her. Like, she is impressed by him, his strength, his fighting skill. And at first, she's just a little annoyed with Summer, because she sees Summer already as a block in between her and Tai. So, of course, at first, Raven and Crow lie about who they are, and they form a friendship over time. And eventually, Raven does start to develop feelings for Tai. Now, at first, she doesn't fully understand, because she's like, what is this? I've never felt this, because she never has. She's lived for the fight most of her life, so it confuses her and, of course, scares her at first. She asks Crow about it, and, of course, you know how Crow is at this time. He just laughs and says, just go get it out of your system. But she doesn't know what that means. But eventually, time goes by. A lot of time goes by, and Raven finally acts upon her instincts, and her and Tai get together. And then, of course, in no time at all, she finds out she is pregnant. Now, this scares Raven, because for the first time, she's going to have to care about someone other than herself, which, of course, she still doesn't know if it's love or if it's just lust that she feels for Tai. So as time goes on, she decides to move in with Tai because she's pregnant. And, about 9 months, Yang Xiaolong is born. And now, of course, she is a hybrid. She is half Saiyan, half human. So in this world, she's kind of like Gohan. She has that potential to be stronger than even a pureblood Saiyan. So, but when Yang is born, Raven kind of sees this as an opportunity to return to the fold, because she's a pure-blooded Saiyan. She doesn't want to be tied down. She feels like she'll just get weak. And this leads to the issue of Saiyan parenting, because we all know the jokes about Goku being an awful dad, though A lot of people explain it that, it's just his Saiyan instincts. Saiyans are not the best parents in a little way. But then you have Vegeta, who never forgot what it was like to be a Saiyan. He didn't hit his head. He still has his Saiyan pride. But Vegeta is, in a lot of ways, a very caring husband and very caring father. Now, with Gohan, of course, with Pan, Gohan is part human, so he has that going for him. And like I said earlier, Bardock was shown to be very indifferent of Goku or Kakarot when he was born, but then you have the Dragon Ball Super Broly version where Bardock did show compassion and that he cared about the well-being of his son. But Raven is still Raven in this version, and so she decides to split. Now, I don't know if it was ever explained if Raven just up and left in the show or if she left a note or something. Well, in this version, she does leave a note. She tells Tai not to come look for her, and that once Yang is strong enough to send her way. Once she is strong enough to meet my expectations, send her to me. Because deep down, Raven wants to train Yang. Now, of course, this leads to Tai and Summer getting together and the birth of Ruby Rose, Yang's younger half-sister. So, but before we get to that, we've got a few years of Yang on her own growing up. And it's very apparent, very, very early that Yang takes after her mother and that she is freakishly strong. She's faster than a normal human. Even with a semblance, she's way faster than she should be. She's way stronger than she should be. You could even say maybe there's a time where her and Tai are playing and she accidentally breaks Tai's arm because she just doesn't know how to control her strength. Poor Zwei. I'd hate to think what might have happened to poor Zwei. No, Zwei is okay in this. And Summer even wants to train her, but it's very quickly that Summer just can't keep up with her, because even as a child, Yang is just already stronger than most of the people on Remnant right now. And of course, she's born with a tail, so Tai and Summer already have to talk about what should we do, because Raven told Tai everything. Tai has not told Summer, though. And so Tai is like, and this is not an easy decision, but he decides to just say that she is a Faunus, and I don't want to say what the reason is. I don't want to say he's going to pass off his naturally born daughter that he is her father by blood and say he adopted her, but he also doesn't want to say, oh, he had an affair with a Faunus. But they live out in Patch. It's a good ways out. Not many people live nearby. They're out there in the middle of nowhere. So they just decide we'll deal with it when we get to it. Or that they'll let Yang make that decision. So some time goes by, and this is shortly before Ruby is born. Crow starts to come by and visit. Because even though him and Raven are not related by blood, he still sees Yang as his niece. And he warns Tai. He warns Tai to never let Yang outside during a full moon. He says this while looking at her tail. Now, of course, Tai doesn't know what he's talking about because Raven never said anything. But Crow knows because it happened before. Well, sadly, one night Yang does sneak out to play after dark because I don't know about you all, but I did this as a kid. Staying up late on Fridays and Saturdays, I would sneak out of the house when it was like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I'd play with our dogs out in the yard in the middle of the night. But she sneaks out, she walks around the woods, she might go for a swim, and then she looks up and there is a bright, full moon. Well, yeah, Yang transforms into a great ape. Now, thankfully, in this version of Patch, it's out in the middle of nowhere enough to where no one is really going to get hurt, besides Ty and Summer at this point. But they are literally at the mercy of this gigantic ape that is their daughter. And of course, Ty and Summer do not have the powers to blow up the moon like in the show, but they also can't really get close enough to cut her tail off, nor do they have that knowledge. So sadly, Ty, Summer, and Zwei have to abandon their house and Patch while Yang destroys it because because Raven was a low level Saiyan, and so she does not have the cognitive control that higher class Saiyans have in this transformation where they keep their wits. And literally, they have to hide out through the night until the moon goes away for Yang to turn back into her normal self. And so they make up a story to Yang because they don't want to tell this child, you destroyed our house. So they just lie and say there was a fire or something else. And Yang is angry by this because she has a feeling someone did it. But they assure her it was an accident and they build a new house. Now, where they stay at until the house is built, well, let's just say that Crow took care of them and built a little safe house just in case things with Yang got really out of control. And so that's where they stay until the new house is built. And this eventually leads to the birth of Ruby Rose. Now, leading up to this, they have made double sure that Yang does not go out during a full moon. And they make up some story about a monster being out there that'll eat little children if they go out during a full moon. And of course, at first, Yang is like, oh, I'm going to go out there and beat this monster up. But eventually they get through to her that she is just too important to them. Please don't go outside during a full moon. And so she agrees. And it is also during this time where she develops her very large appetite. Poor Summer cannot keep enough food on the table to save her life. It is to the point where they almost decide that they need to move closer to civilization to supply more food, but Ty does not want to do that. He's worried about what the world would make of Yang if they learned more about her. And so they just do with what they can. But he also teaches Yang how to fish and how to hunt so that she can pretty much satisfy herself. And Yang, even as a young child, is very efficient on her own, which is why even at a young age, Ty thinks she is already ready to go train with Raven. But he decides against it. He decides to start training her a bit himself to show her how to fight a little bit more properly. But it's very obvious that she just already outmatches him. He can't even playfully spar with her without feeling like his bones are going to break. And so that is why he starts wondering if maybe at even this young of age, Yang should head out into the world and train from the greatest teacher of all, and that is life. Pretty much a training journey. But he has to go through Summer first, and Summer, pregnant, already had just Ruby, is not very willing to send a child out on her own. But they come up with a way to get around this, and that is Crow. For Crow to keep an eye on her as she travels. Now, what happens during Yang's travels? We'll have to get that into the next episode, because that is where I'm going to end this. This went a little longer than I thought, but I literally just came up with all that on the spot. So next episode, I'll try and have a bit more planned out. But hope you enjoyed it. This, like I said, is going to be a true alternate reality where things do not play out in RWBY like they did in the show. Hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment. As always, guys, this is Cannan. Me and Jess love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you in the next one. See ya.